I don't know, but Chris Rose has a
Chris
YouTube.
Rose has a podcast.
His podcast.
Austin Hedges goes on. And this is an interesting back and forth regarding Eric Hosmer, of all people. Mm-hmm. Take a listen.
Interesting. Because he was the whipping boy in San Diego.
Yeah, it's terrible how they treated him there. Absolutely terrible. They just didn't understand what they had. And if you ask any of his teammates there throughout that whole time, 100% of the ones that I've talked to would say the exact same thing I'm saying right now. And the thing that guy brought to a room, to a team is it's worth wins. And but if your OPS isn't sexy enough for some of the nerds, then you're just not a valuable player. And in my mind, Eric Hosmer is an extremely valuable player, and still.
He called you out, Jim.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, that's why he's been like DFA'd by 2 teams.
He's not even in baseball anymore. And okay, you're going to tell me his value is greater than his statistics. Then why wasn't the team better than they were? He was on bad teams. And by the way, it's interesting Austin Hedges is saying this because he's not exactly Mr. OPS.
So my first question is, who are you talking about? Are you talking about the fan base, or are you talking about the organization?
No, he's talking about the fan base.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Right?
Don't yell at me.
He's talking about the fan base.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody knew exactly what Eric Hosmer was and what this team had in Eric Hosmer, and it translated to, let me see here, no winning.
No, in 2020, remember that big year he had? He played like 20 games.
And it's like, he had an 890 OPS. Yeah, he played 20 games.
He had the stomach issue, and he broke his hand bunting.
He had the bubble guts. Yeah, bunting, which you're like, why are you bunting, dude? You don't even bunt ever, and you broke your hand. Eric Hosmer was a complete failure of resigning. Was it Eric Hosmer's fault that he made $140+ million with this team or signed that contract? No, it wasn't. That was on Preller and Fowler and Seidler. Like they're the ones that agreed to give Eric Hosmer that money. Not Hosmer's fault that he made that much money. I don't blame Hosmer for that one bit. But what I do blame Eric Hosmer for is a lot of times he was so standoffish about trying to change anything about his game to improve, that he got here by doing what he did. And so why do I need to change? Right. I got to the point in my career where I signed an 8-year, $140+ million contract, right, to be the first baseman of the San Diego Padres. Why do I need to change anything about my game? Why do I need to go and work and change anything at all? And I think that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and rightfully so.
Well, you're 100% right, because what did he do instead of try to change? He blamed it all on the shift.
Yep.
And said, I'm not hitting because of the shift. The shift.
Other things were to blame.
And then what happened? He ended up going to the Cubs. Shift gets abolished.
Yeah.
He's still out of baseball.
It made no difference. He still couldn't hit.
Here's the other thing that I think a lot of people weren't particularly enamored with, including myself. I don't think he ever embraced San Diego.
No.
Like the fan base, the city. Remember, there was a lot of reference to when he's talking about Kansas City. We used to do it this way. What do you mean we? You're no longer there. And again, I think his time in San Diego, to be fair, he was probably given a little more time than he should have been given. Okay, he had an extra year or so. We thought he was going to be moved well before he was moved. And I just, listen, this is why I always say, when you make decisions based on players' feelings, that's a terrible way to make decisions. When you make a decision like, hey, you shouldn't sell because Joe Musgrove says don't sell, never make decisions based on what players think, ever. And that's with all due respect to all players. Players are not in the position of running organizations. They should concentrate on doing what's necessary to win, putting themselves in a position to prepare to play to the best of their ability. When you start listening to Austin Hedges about Eric Hosmer getting run out of town, when you start listening to Joe Musgrove, who, by the way, is a great player, he's a great player. But when Joe Musgrove starts publicly talking about, if you move Snell, if you move Hader, listen, that's not your job. It's not your job to comment on those matters. Now, I don't know if they would have moved those players or not if Musgrove never commented on it. Manny Machado, same thing. Every once in a while, the Machado, to his credit, will say, you know what? I'm not paid to make those decisions. We heard that a little bit this trade deadline. But I always take player comments on front office decisions with a grain of salt.
The nerds with the OPS.
He's talking right to you, man. You killed. I mean, it's
Oh,
amazing.
man.
I thought
Hedges, bro,
he made your career. Eric Hosmer made your career.
No, he didn't. First off, Austin, bro, sure, you're a nice dude, whatever. You know how lucky you are you're still in the big leagues? Like, you should be thanking everybody that values your defense behind the plate. Because if it wasn't for that, I mean, it's still a big part of the game, but you're one of, if not the worst hitting catchers in the history of the sport. So don't come at me or come at the fans or any quote unquote nerd out there for thinking that OPS actually matters. Because guess what? It actually does, buddy.
What are you talking about? Hedges this year is hitting 175 with a home run.
And then the whole Eric Hosmer thing about, well, people didn't like his OPS that much. He was getting paid to be a all-star level player, and he never came close to that.
We criticized Jake Cronenworth at first base. Why wouldn't we criticize Eric Hosmer at first base? First base is a power-producing position. I don't care if you're making $600K as a first-year player that's not arbitration eligible, or you're making $20 million a year like Eric Hosmer. One of the issues the Padres have had here over the last decade is they get no power out of first base.
None.
Just like they got no production out of catcher for a long period of time as well. And it's like there's always these issues that pop up. And again, it's fine. I don't have a problem with Hedges saying it. I don't
He's
have a problem.
misguided.
Yeah, it's just like, again, you're not the GM.
No. Like, I know he's your buddy. I know you're best friends with him or whatever, and you thought he was great in the clubhouse. It equated to what, John?
2020, they beat the Cardinals in the postseason.
And also it equated to everybody crying about it in 2021.
2021 was like, if you trade Hosmer, like, I don't know how we're going to go
Like,
on.
we're going to revolt.
And
like,
then they didn't trade him.
Yeah.
And then they went into the tank.
I'm sorry. We are this is a business. All right. When you start talking about feelings, it just makes everything so much more difficult. And I'm sorry, he wasn't performing here. End of story. I don't care how many people liked him. He was not performing. He was statistically one of the worst first basemen in all of the sport. His ground ball rate was like the number one ground ball rate in baseball. He never wanted to change. He was being paid $20 million plus, and he was performing at a below average level. This is not about feelings. This is about performance, and he deserved to be traded and cut off this team.
What is your blood pressure right now?
105.
I think you'd be like dead. It's like too low.
Probably.
I think this is a situation where the Padres have been in the national media the last couple of weeks for their, alleged clubhouse issues, and former Padres that have grudges against the team, and they're using it as their opportunity to go, well, no one's ever going to want to talk to me more than they want to talk to me now. I'll bash the clubhouse and say how awful it was there. Come talk to me.
I can't wait for the next expose at the end of 2023.
And you know it's coming.
A former player said they shouldn't have moved on from Eric Hosmer.